On February 5, 2025, after 13 years on Texas's death row, Stephen Lawayne Nelson was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit for the 2011 church murder of Pastor Clint Dobson, a killing he claimed he didn't commit, even in his final moments. Pastor Clint Dobson was only 28 years old when he was killed inside his own church, a sacred space violated in broad daylight. On the morning of March 3, 2011, Dobson and 69-year-old Secretary Judy Elliott were working at North Point Baptist Church in Arlington, Texas. According to security logs and church records, the day began routinely. But sometime before noon, that calm was shattered. Dobson was brutally beaten, strangled with a computer cord, and suffocated with a plastic bag tightly bound around his head. Elliott was also attacked and left for dead, beaten so viciously that even her husband failed to recognize her face in the hospital. The attacker fled with a laptop, cell phone, credit cards, and Dobson's car. Police found no signs of forced entry, suggesting the assailant was either known to the victims or had caught them completely off guard. It wasn't a clean crime. Blood was splattered across the office. A broken belt lay nearby. Surveillance footage later showed someone using the stolen cards and driving the missing vehicle. When Stephen Lawayne Nelson was arrested, he denied killing anyone. He admitted to being present, but claimed he only served as a lookout while two unnamed men carried out the violence. Was this a confession or a deflection? Could the truth be more complicated than it seemed? The forensic trail was damning. Nelson's fingerprints were lifted from multiple surfaces inside the church. Blood from both Dobson and Elliott was found on his shoes. Surveillance video showed him driving Dobson's stolen Mazda and making purchases with the church's credit cards. Witnesses also testified that Nelson attempted to sell stolen items shortly after the crime. The belt found near Dobson's body matched the bruising on his neck, and DNA linked it to Nelson. No other suspects were identified. The two men Nelson blamed were investigated and quickly cleared. They had solid alibis backed by witnesses and location data. Despite these findings, the case was not without controversy. Nelson's own confession conflicted with the physical evidence, yet the prosecution never conclusively proved how the murder unfolded. Could his role have been exaggerated by prosecutors? Or was his lookout story just a self-serving fabrication to avoid death? The trial began in Tarrant County on October 1, 2012. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, portraying Nelson as a violent, remorseless killer who had targeted a house of worship for robbery. The defense argued otherwise, that Nelson did not commit the murder, had not planned the killing, and was being used as a scapegoat to close a high-profile case. Nelson himself testified, insisting that the fatal blows were delivered by someone else, an assertion the jury found unconvincing. On October 8, 2012, he was convicted of capital murder. By October 16, the death sentence was handed down. For more than a decade, Nelson pursued appeals, citing ineffective assistance of counsel and insufficient evidence of intent to kill. His petitions were denied by both state and federal courts. The U.S. Supreme Court refused to review his case. With all legal avenues exhausted, a death warrant was issued in June 2024. But the question persisted. Was this a man punished for the murder or for being at the wrong place, with the wrong motive, at the worst possible time? Under Texas policy, Nelson received no special last meal. He ate the same institutional food served to all inmates on the day of his execution. Stephen Lawayne Nelson spent his final hours with striking emotional control. Unlike many condemned inmates, there were no erratic outbursts, no tears, no public appeals. He declined a special last meal under Texas policy, accepting the regular prison fare without protest. In the holding cell, he reportedly remained composed, reading, meditating, and speaking quietly with his spiritual advisor. Prison officials described him as calm but resolved. Guards noticed he had been unusually still during final checks. No pacing, no hesitation. It was as if he had rehearsed this. When brought to the execution chamber, Nelson did not resist or falter. Strapped to the gurney, he made steady eye contact with his wife, who watched from behind the glass. Their connection was silent but unbroken. His last words were reserved for her. "I love you. I love you. I love you." Then, glancing at the warden, he said simply, "Let's ride, warden." At 6:26 p.m., a single dose of pentobarbital was administered. Over the next 24 minutes, Nelson's body gradually stilled. His breathing slowed, then ceased. He was pronounced dead at 6:50 p.m. No apology, no mention of the crime, no final admission. Was this acceptance, or defiance, peace, or denial? The stillness in Nelson's final hours raises an unsettling question. Did he face death with the serenity of a guilty man who made peace, or the quiet confidence of someone convinced he didn't deserve to die?